Hello, everyone, and welcome to Drop the Gloves with Wichita Thunder head coach Malcolm Cameron. Drop the Gloves is a weekly program where you, the fans, get to ask your questions and you get straight answers from the Wichita Thunder head coach. In this week's episode, the coach talks to us about the amazing development of his rookies. He discusses the success rate of pulling your goaltender for an extra attacker, and the coach dispenses his marital advice for a couple of newbies. So let's get right to Drop the Gloves. So let's welcome back Coach Cameron this week. Coach, do you have team updates for us?
Yes, we acquired off of waivers Maxime St. Cyr, who played in the league last year with the Florida Everblades. He's a former 50-goal scorer in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, as well as we just called up a player from the Southern Pro League, Mike Moran, who was over a point a game in Mississippi, played 4 years at Boston University. We're just, down in numbers here with the call-ups of Jamie Dornbosch and Ryan Rupert Sunday. And with 4 games and 5 nights this weekend, next week, we just needed numbers. It's just guys are playing banged up, guys are playing beat up right now, and unfortunately, you got to have extra bodies around or just enough to play at least. And right now, we're only carrying 1 extra.
So that puts you back at 19 at this point.
Puts us back at 19, 11 forwards, 60, and 2 goalies.
Wow. Well, let's talk about a few questions before we head into fan questions this week. The team's been struggling a little bit lately, and I know that can create kind of a tough locker room. How do you as a coach ensure that the team isn't getting too low?
It's been really good. I mean, we've lost a lot of 1-goal games, so we're right there. And it's a mental mistake. If you look at our game on Saturday night against Colorado, we put up 40 shots against a team that only averages giving up 26 a night. So we did a good job. We weren't as sharp around the net as probably we would have been Friday night or even Wednesday. A lot of that's due to fatigue. We had to play Tuesday in Missouri, drive up, play, drive back, play Wednesday. Day off Thursday, played Friday, played Saturday. So I was really, really impressed with the energy level the players had. And I told them all year, if they played as hard as they could, give the best that they can, win or lose, I'd always shake their hand. And I went around and shook all their hands on Saturday night. I know they wanted to win, but unfortunately, and I don't count the empty net goals, but to lose a game by 1 goal, we hit a crossbar. It's mental errors that kill us, and a lot of it is bad decisions at the wrong time. A penalty in the first 2 minutes of a hockey game is something you don't want to do. We get scored on. We take a bad penalty at the end of the second period to put us down 5-on-3 against the dynamite power play, and a long change. Even if you get that puck out on 5-on-3, it's tough to get your guys off to get fresh guys on. And we blocked 2 shots. Jared Grant was limping on the ice. So, it's bad decisions at the wrong time. But the guys know the compete, the effort is there. Our power play has been really good. Sometimes it just takes a little bit extra. If we can cut down on those mental mistakes for penalties, I think we're going to be fine.
I know a lot of coaches talk about that you're playing 1 game at a time, but if you're trying to get out of a situation like this, do you focus on, is it 1 face-off at a time? Is it?
It's right now it's 1 period at a time, 1 shift at a time, and that's all it is. And we focus on improving the mistakes, that we've made previously. The Colorado team we played just 2 rookies. We had 10 in the lineup. Most of our experienced players are all out of the lineup. Right now. So it makes it tough. These guys are getting put into positions and maybe a little bit of exposed because they're not used to playing in those key minutes. And by right, some guys are playing too many minutes right now. But that happens. We didn't expect Rodwald, Krushelnyski, Rumble, Arsenault, Loiseau, all these guys to be out of our lineup for months at a time. At this level, you expect maybe to lose 1 key guy for a long time, but not all of them for 3 months, and you just don't replace those players. So that experience part has hurt our team for sure. But at the same time, guys you'll see rapid improvement because they're playing key minutes and in key situations. So for us right now, we're just focused on Rapid City. We're focused on the first shift and getting a lead and winning the first period.
Well, let's talk about those rookies for a moment. You and I have discussed a lot about how well Ryan Tiesink and Jared Grant have played for you. But Matt DeBlau has really been on fire offensively, and Loic Marcotte with 3 straight games with goals last week. Your rookies really seem to be coming together.
Yeah, they are. And again, Marcotte's a second-year player, but he's still a young guy. He's only 23 years of age. DeBlau, I mean, yeah, he's certainly coming into his own. His speed makes him dangerous all the time. When he plays physical, he plays better. And that was always a knock on Matt, that he wasn't consistent with his physical play, but he's so fast that when he gets into the forecheck and he pressures the D, he turns over a lot of pucks, and therefore he gets the puck more to produce offense. So it's good to see him get rewarded and have a real good second half of the season.
Well, let's look at our fan questions this week. We first of all start from Mike from Wichita. He says, Coach, I look at some penalties and wonder if there should be a different amount of time assessed to a person for different infractions. I know they have minor and major penalties, but I think boarding should have more penalty time than tripping, like maybe 3 minutes. What say you?
Well, you can actually get a 5-minute boarding penalty if it's determined there was an intent to injure. As well as like high sticking. If a guy is injured on the play, they can give you a double minor, which is a 4-minute penalty. So there is 4-minute penalties. There are 2 minor penalties, just basically doubling them up, and that comes from sometimes roughing, which isn't quite a fight because the guy didn't drop his gloves but continued to throw punches. I just don't think they're called as frequently as they should be.
Our next question comes from Trish from Wichita. She says, in listening to you talk on the show last week, I get the impression that you are not as excited about the affiliate deal with Ottawa as you were when the season began.
Well, I mean, you like to plan around. I'm a big-time planner. I plan the roster, and I plan kind of how I envision the season going in terms of our roster based upon the best information as possible. So when we were doing the deal and we start talking, and you never know what players you're going to get until right around training camp when everybody's done their signings at the NHL level, the AHL level. So when you're looking at your roster and you're plugging it in, you're going, okay, I've got a top line left winger, I've got a top line right winger, I've got a top defenseman, I've got a second line right winger. So you don't necessarily have to, or nor can you in this league, because we have roster restrictions, go out and sign 3 or 4 of those guys. You just can't. Number one, you can't keep them all happy. Number two, you can't fit at roster salary-wise. So you plan on having those guys, maybe 55 games here, 20 games gone. The way it's worked out, it's going to be like 6 games here and 70 games gone. So those are things that I'll have to reassess and reevaluate. I've worked with Minnesota, Montreal, San Jose, Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. So I've worked with a lot of different NHL teams and affiliations. This is the first time I've ever seen or ever been a part of players being as gone as long as they have. You can never plan for that. And obviously it's hurt our record. And if you were to look at our team at the beginning of the year, the way we played and with the people that were on it, I believe we'd have 30 wins right now. Unfortunately, they're not here. And that's been a struggle.
Is the deal that you have a yearly deal with Ottawa then?
It is, yes.
Next up, we have Bruce from Wichita. He says, am I wrong, or does it seem like some teams kind of relax for a minute or two after scoring a goal? It looks to me like there is relief that a goal's been scored, and so the team kind of relaxes.
Well, they shouldn't. The key moments in games are usually the first 2 minutes, last 2 minutes of a period, and the shift after a goal, either when you get scored on or scored. You want to keep that momentum. If you got scored on, you want to turn the momentum back in your favor. If you've just scored, you want to keep that momentum. So to me, that is one of the most important times in a hockey game, and nobody should relax.
When I read that question, it was Saturday, it was sent to me, and I was watching the game Saturday night, and I thought, and so I'm kind of curious from your standpoint, it looked like when Colorado scored against you guys, that you guys took command of the game after that portion. Is that you guys putting more pressure?
Yes, it is. It is. It's definitely us doing that. I think the big thing is when you get scored on, you're so anxious to get it back right away. So you're super intense, and it almost like energizes you, or guilt energized because you got scored on. when you score, you know that the other team is feeling that pressure to get it back right away, so you have to maintain your level of intensity and physicality and compete. So it's a chess match.
Next up, we have Dean from Dodge City. He says, is there more strategy as a coach in low-scoring games?
Yes and no, for sure. If the game is a low-scoring one, a 1-0 or 2-1, you're obviously looking for different ways to create offense to get that tying goal or the next goal. So you may run a lot more gimmick face-off plays, whether it's offensive zone or defensive zone, to try and create that opportunity to score that goal. So definitely, I mean, there's games sometimes where it just seems like both teams just score, and then you're worrying about how to defend better. So each one of them takes on a different approach, probably more defensive in the high-scoring games, and you're looking to create more offense in the low-scoring games.
Stan from McConnell Air Force Base would like to know, what is the rate of success when a team pulls a goalie for the extra attacker?
Hard to say. We haven't been very successful at it, and I think a lot of that has to do with the players, the experience that they have. At the beginning of the year, we were very good with the extra man because the 6 players that were on the ice were all veteran players. So they knew they weren't panicking with the puck. They knew to make the right play. They didn't want to turn it over because that could lead to an empty net goal. When you have young players, sometimes they're not quite as poised with the puck, and they panic and they make a wrong decision, and that ends up in the back of your net. And that's happened to us most recently.
We have a couple of questions from Mark from West St. Paul. The first one is, former Twins manager Tom Kelly used to say that a minor leaguer drops 50 points of average for every level he moves up. Is there a correlation like that in hockey for moving up levels?
No, sometimes guys have to reinvent themselves. So in hockey, if you're a goal scorer, say at the ECHL level, and you're a really good skater, but you're not a natural goal scorer, maybe just because the defensemen at our level here aren't quite as good doesn't mean you can do those same things at the American League level. So sometimes you have to reinvent yourself as a player and become more of a defensive specialist, or a good penalty killer, or a good face-off guy. It's guys that typically can add to their resume and make themselves more broad as players that have a chance to move up and be successful. Very rarely do you ever see a guy come out of junior who's 50 goals in the Coast, 50 goals in the American League, 50 goals in the NHL, unless they're Sidney Crosby, and they bypass all the other levels. But most guys that work their way out of the minor leagues have to change their game as they move along. They really do.
You got to be more well-rounded, I would assume.
More well-rounded, yes.
Mark would also like to know, he says, Coach, the Minnesota Wild are really rolling. Do you think they are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup this year?
I don't know about the favorites. While you still get teams like Chicago and LA with that experience, even the Rangers, I think those teams, Pittsburgh, any of the more recent winners, those are the guys I put my money on.
Our next question is Barry from Wichita. He seems like a lot of stuff is missed during games with just one referee trying to govern the entire ice. Would you like to see the ECHL turn to 2 refs on the ice during games?
Yes, I would. I mean, we're seeing it at the American League level, the NHL level, the major junior level. When I coached in the Western Hockey League, we'd have 2 referees. I do believe that. I think there's so much going on out there right now. The game has become so fast that if we truly want to create competitive games and reward teams for being disciplined, we need the 2 refs.
Do you see that becoming a possibility?
I don't know. That's probably more of a question for Joel, our general manager, who attends league meetings. I know it's always comes down to cost and logistics, and now you're talking about 2 hotel rooms and paying 2 referees, and it's all cost at the minor league level.
I can believe that. Sean from St. Louis would like to know, do you recommend one brand of hockey stick over another?
Well, our league uses CCM Reebok sticks in our league deal, but I always used Bauer. I always like Bauer sticks. That's what my kids use.
Frank from Wichita asks, Coach, please say that you asked the Toledo Walleyes to wear those Rocky uniforms for games this weekend.
I didn't, and their coach is a former captain of mine, and I'm sure he doesn't want to ever see those jerseys again.
Our last question is from Jim from Wichita. He says, Coach, you and Rob have a lot of experience being married so long. Give us newbies some tips on having a long and successful marriage.
Communication, listen. That's the biggest thing. You got to be able to give and take, and you have to listen, and you got to be sensitive to other people's feelings and thoughts, and be able to share. Much like being on a hockey team.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
Anytime.
We want to thank Coach Cameron for joining us on Drop the Gloves this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita Thunder coach, please send them to us at malcolmcameron@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's malcolmcameron@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Monday evening so we can give the coach a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Paneer, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next time on Drop the Gloves.